of our South by Southwest 2021 coverage. It was a very different year, but before we go, there are a few movies we saw that we kind of want to talk about real quick. I will kick it off with the two that I watched, because the first one was The Spine of Night. It was a Midnighters. It was one of the most talked about films this year. Got to watch it, and I was completely disappointed. It's a rotoscoped animated film with like Patton Oswalt plays this mad king who gets his face burned off. Completely inappropriate voice for this. See, this is kind of why I wish you would have watched this, because they had the actors portraying some of the roles, but their voices were not matching what that character should have been. Like Patton Oswalt as a mad king with his voice melted off does not really work for me. Not that he's a bad actor, but you know, he just sounded more like a whiny bitch. So the whole concept is that a long time ago, the gods battled their children, and the children felled the gods. And so when one of the gods fell, the flowers of the gods, which is basically knowledge and power, were blooming. And people are always questing for them. And when you quest for them, you get all the knowledge, but you become like the new guardian. Well, one of the spores gets loose and ends up in a swamp, and the swamp witch uses it for good. And they're like primitive, and she's like, you know, healing people holistically. Well, the medieval society comes and crashes the party, and this philosopher ends up stealing it from her and becomes like this mad immortal god king who can cast magic. Like, there was lots of blood and stuff, but I expected more. And it's told like in 3 different chunks of generations, where the god king's fighting the last queen, and her sparrow warriors come down, and like he ends up dying. And so the last flower is up in the skull, and the swamp queen's getting ready to take the old guardian's spot, and the god king comes up to get the last flower because he lost what he had. They collide, and basically that's it. They both die, and that's the power of the gods is gone. Really long. Really, really long. And just, I guess there's these really dark, high concept, bloody medieval fantasy stories are for me if there's a lot of blood and gore, and if it's maybe not quite so slowly told, but this was like excruciating. So I pushed my way through it, was not impressed at all. And then this morning I got up and I was like, okay, there's one other film I have to watch. And it's Luchadores, and it's about female luchadors in Juarez, Mexico. And this movie was great. It is a documentary that follows a midget luchador, a masked luchador, and an unmasked luchador. And there are 3 powerful women in Juarez making statements about how they can be loved in public but loathed when they're regular women. Because there's all this violence against women in Juarez. And right across the way is El Paso, which is like the safe zone. And it's about their lives and their families and this world they're living in, and how they're trying to make these changes, and what being a luchador means to them, and how they love it. Like the midget gets picked up by a professional luchador league in Mexico City, and the masked one came from Mexico City but fell in love and had a kid, and now she's stuck in Juarez, and she dreams about going back to Mexico City. And then there's the unmasked one who just wants to be with her kids because her drunken husband took them, and she's trying to get a visa so she can figure out how to handle her kids and get them away from here. Like, and all of this is happening in the world of the luchador ring. Like, they go to these things, and everyone's there cheering them on, taking pictures, and there's all this crime and violence outside the wall, outside the building, and there's women's coalitions marching at night because the government tries to say women need to be quarantined at night for their protection. Like, no, y'all need to just stop. Like, so many stories being told, but like, I love the luchador culture as it is, so I just love this film. It was an amazing, amazing documentary of many sides of things. And it's just amazing to think that 15 minutes away from El Paso, there's this violent, murder-ridden capital. Not even 15 minutes from El Paso. And it's amazing the difference a imaginary line makes. I loved it.
That's really cool.
If you get a chance to watch Luchadores, I highly recommend it.
It's
probably what I will buy when it comes out, just because like there's a few documentaries I love so much that I have to buy. Usually they're like the Ninja Turtles one or Garbage Pail Kids or some weird shit like the Showbiz Pizza one that I love, the Rockefeller Explosion. But this one is a very serious one that I love. Like, this is on the par of OxyContin the OxyKeep pens. Like those two documentaries just rocked my world this year. But you saw another film that I will have to watch. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so I watched oh man, God. I'm so bad with titles. It has the actress's name in the title of the film, but it's not just called her name. It might be called The Life of Selma Blair or something Selma Blair, but it's about her experience with multiple sclerosis. So she was diagnosed in 2017, or she went public with it in October of 2017 that she'd been diagnosed with MS. And I didn't know what it was going to be about other than her talking about it, but she actually filmed the entire experience of her going from, hi, I live with MS, to I've decided to have a stem cell transplant, which is huge and still kind of a newer technology to us. And it doesn't always work. And so it went through the whole thing of, we get to see her before, and how she lives. And, she's really funny. And, she's been in a lot of prominent movies. She's been in Cruel Intentions. She's in, that's my favorite movie with her. She was in the Legally Blonde movies. She's been in a lot of different films. And she's great. And then we see her actually, she gets accepted as a as a viable candidate for stem cell transplant. And we see her go and do that. And then we see her struggle with that process, because you've got to go through rounds and rounds and rounds of chemo, because you got to bring your immune system down to zero before you can get your transplant. And then you go through that process. And that's also, it's just, she's sick. Her hair's, it's really rough, but all through it, she's this really funny, smart person. I wanted it to be a documentary about someone who has this really awful diagnosis, who gets to have a possible different outcome, because there is no cure for MS, but some of the people who have had a stem cell transplant have looked like they've recovered from it. Again, no cure, but have done really well with those transplants and gone through a great recovery process. And I wanted that, and that's what I thought it was going to be, and it wasn't. She just happened to be one of the people, and I don't know what the statistics are, but there's a lot of them that it doesn't work. Apparently, because MS attacks the spinal cord, it attacks the brain, and she'd gone to see a different doctor, and the doctor said that she had gray matter, and I don't know what that means in medical terms, other than meaning that she has had brain damage from her years of having MS, and wasn't going to be able to have the recovery that she'd hoped to have from this stem cell transplant. And that's really sad. And despite that, though, it wasn't a tearjerker of a documentary. It didn't hit you over the head with like a depressing, gloomy. It was filmed with a lot of light. Shows her in the pool. It shows her with her son, that her son is her life. She's got these gigantic, amazing glasses that she wears for most of the film. She's funny. She's so funny. The first 10 minutes are probably actually the toughest. And this is before she gets she's already the disorder has already greatly affected her life. But we actually get to see what happens when her speech starts to become affected. And I was like, oh my God, it was really hard to watch. And there is not enough, I feel, attention in any media, whether it's movies about people with disabilities or, I don't know, just like that short film that we watched earlier today that we were talking about, Wiggle Room. it was such a big deal when Selma Blair went public with her MS diagnosis, and she showed up to the Oscars in this beautiful long flowing dress, and she talked about how she chose the cane that she wanted. It's just.
Here's why I think things like this are really important. Because it's one thing to read a pamphlet or be told how it's going to be. It's another thing to be able to see it so you know how to handle it and understand the things that are going on. I think this is going to be a great thing for people who are going to be diagnosed or are going to have loved ones who are going to be diagnosed, to be able to see what life is going to be like and how to be able to adapt to it and prepare for things. I always worry about stuff like that, like kind of off the subject, when they talk about, sexual education. They want it to just be completely straight. Well, what about the trans and gay kids who don't have anything to look at, to learn from, and know what to experience? What about these straight kids who are going to end up with gay kids or transgender kids? How are they going to know how to tell them about these things? I love the fact that she was bold enough to say, let's do this documentary. And she may have wanted something from it, but it's not what we end up at the end. And it's real. So you can see this and be like, okay, this is what life is going to be like. These are what life for people with this is like. I can now understand more and I'll be prepared. So I love this, that she did this. I love that whoever did this.
I've always really liked Selma Blair. Like I said, I love funny women. I love funny, strong women. And she's so kooky in the films I've seen her in. And Legally Blonde, she played the straight bitch character who ends up being cool. But in Cruel Intentions, she's so funny. And I have never seen such a raw display of bravery. Like, she even shows her body, because her body becomes really swollen after all the drugs and everything she's got to take, and she's like, hey, and hair's gone, her face is, and I'm like, fuck yes, like, oh my God, it's needed, it's necessary. And she did have a little bit of recovery, but the heartbreaking thing was that it's not going to be more probably than what it was, unless there's other advancements or whatever. She's still real young, relatively speaking. So anyway, so I saw that, and I saw a couple of other things that I wanted to comment on. I watched the keynote speaker of Stacey Abrams, and everyone knows Stacey Abrams from, obviously they've known her for longer than this, but like high visibility during our most recent presidential election. So Wikipedia describes her as American politician, lawyer, voting rights activist, and author who served in the Georgia House of Representatives from 2007 to 2017, serving as minority leader from 2011 to 2017. Democratic Party. She founded the Fair Fight Action, an organization to address voter suppression in 2018, which was key in our recent election, because voter suppression is a real big problem. Her efforts have been widely credited with boosting voter turnout in Georgia, including 2020 presidential election, where Biden won the state, and in Georgia's 2020 to 2021 U.S. Senate election and special election, which gave Democrats control over the Senate. And if Democrats wouldn't have had control over the Senate, even with Biden as president, the Democratic Party would have had a real rough time trying to get anything done. She was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize for her efforts in the 2020 election. So that's what everyone knows about Stacey Abrams. But here's the other thing about she's a romance author and a sci-fi author. And I was on my phone in the beginning while you were talking because I wanted to pull up this email. I took some notes. This keynote, and this is what I freaking love about South by. And I will say, the keynote conference, the talks, because I've watched too. man, they're tough virtually. People don't have, sound booths in their house. They're talking on a cheap mic. They're talking on a little headset. There's not that the mediator or whoever's giving the interview. It's a little bit harder to stop the person from talking, and Stacey Abrams didn't do this, but it's hard to rein them in. Even if you laugh, it like cuts into the other person's speech, and so it's like, what? Oh, sorry, what? Oh, sorry, what? And it's like, the awkward tech problems, and so that's hard. But I did take some notes, and I freaking love this. So the person asks, how do we get candidates to not just make pleasant diplomatic promises, but also give real talk on how they plan to accomplish like whatever their political agenda is? And Stacey Abrams says, we have to meet people where they are, not where we want them to be. And one of the reasons new media, virtual media, door knocking, all of those prolific, all of those ways of communication exist, is that it's our responsibility to find the method that gets us to the greatest number of people. She goes, when I ran for governor, I did debate, I did television. We were also on Spotify. We were on Pandora. I went to Dragon Con. She went to Dragon Con. I went to a gun show. I mean, that's not a normal thing for a Democrat to go to a gun show. She's like, I did a music fest. I did the So-So Death concert. And I don't know what that is, but apparently it's probably not something you'd find a politician at. We also had commercials on country radio. Again, just not a normal thing for someone like Stacey Abrams to be have a commercial run on a country station radio. She goes, and part of this is we convince ourselves that we can only be elected by this narrow sliver of universe that we can conceive of. My belief. So number one, my belief, you have to take advantage of every medium for communication. The second thing is you can't tell yourself no. Don't decide for the voters that they don't want you. I may not convince everyone at a gun show to support me, but I may get a couple of them to look a little, maybe give me a little bit of side eye. And a few more might go home and mention me to someone else. And then that person decides to vote for me. But so often we not only box ourselves, we box ourselves out of the narrative. We tell other people that they're not allowed to listen to us. I want you to, it's my favorite part. I want you to hear me and decide you don't want what I'm selling. I don't want to be the one to tell you that you can't even have it. And so for new candidates, especially those who have progressive values, part of our responsibility is to share what we know, to invite others in, and to recognize that compromise is not evil. As long as your compromise, your approach, that you're not compromising your values. She goes, I don't compromise my values, but I have conversations about the approaches I'm willing to take if my values remain strong. I'm almost done. She goes, and this notion that you have to get everything you want or it's not worth having ignores humanity. It doesn't work when you're 3. It doesn't work when you're 30. And it doesn't work when you're in politics, because ultimately society is about each of us getting something that we need by giving up something that we want. And that doesn't disappear when you're running for office. What's important is that we know what we can't give up, and those are the things we defend. But everything else has to be open to a conversation if we want to get any progress. And I know. And this is all just real talk. And this is coming out of a conversation where they're talking about her life as a romance author. She's a huge sci-fi fan. She's in love with Supernatural. She's in love with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She was trending on Twitter one night, because she made a comment about why Buffy's relationship with Spike was just as important as Buffy's relationship with Angel, but for 2 completely different reasons. She needed Angel and Spike for different reasons. And then David Boreanaz responded, and he was like, no, Angel was the only boyfriend she ever needed. And it was really kind of fun. But everything I've shared so far, and I'm almost done, but this is the crux of why I loved her, because I'm always pushing this for other people. And this is going to tie back into my Selma Blair thoughts. you may think you know what you want for your life, and you may think you know exactly how to get it. And you go forward with your intention to get to the goal that you set for yourself. I'm going to be this thing. I'm going to take these steps to get there. And a lot of the time, it didn't happen. It doesn't happen. So you have to understand the art of navigation. How do I still get what I want without compromising my core beliefs, my core value system, my core? How do I get there and still meet my goal and still be every bit as intact as I ever have been? And she touches upon that. She says, I started crying and I paused it. I paused the speech. You may want to do something one way, and you may have your eyes, your sights set on it. And you may have an entire orchestration, but it may not work out the way you intend. But that doesn't relieve you of the responsibility. Here is my point. If you are a writer and you are waiting to write your book, and you've, bam, oh my gosh, you had a family you didn't know that you were going to have, or wow, you lost your job, and so now you've got to work these 2 other jobs and you don't have any time to write. You still have the responsibility of being a writer. Why? Because that's your calling. And I'm not talking about in a spiritual sense or religious sense. That's not my thing. I'm not a religious or spiritual person. I'm talking about what you know inside of you that you work for, that you live for, that gives you your breath of your soul. I am talking about that thing. And so if you're supposed to be a writer and you know that you are, or you're supposed to be a filmmaker, or you're supposed to be an actor, or you're supposed to be a teacher, you're supposed to be an engineer, you couldn't afford school, there is still a way to get what you want. But the reason why you're not there yet is you haven't found the way to navigate around the obstacles that fucking life fucking gave you. And I see Selma Blair working through that, because she was Selma Blair. She wasn't acting, but she's still performing in a way. She still got to perform for us because she was just delightful in this documentary. And I just, see that, like, people like, yeah, I was going to do this with my life, but I went a different way. Navigate it, man. And it's not easy. I live this every fucking day. But like, I could teach workshops on the art of navigation. I can't teach someone the steps they need to take to get their book out, or to become, the photographer that they have given up on, or whatever. I don't know what those steps are for you, but I can go into a lot about mentally. You've got to retrain your brain and look at everything as a maze with no dead ends. And that doesn't mean, you're going to maybe be the exact thing that you thought you were going to be, but there still is a way to get what you want without compromising your core. And it's just within the art of navigation. And so I watched Stacey Abrams' keynote a couple of times just to take those notes. And I was real touched by Selma Blair. And I just need more time at my South by, because one of the things about this festival that it gives me are these experiences. When I heard Frank Oz talk 2 years ago, oh my God, that was fucking life-changing to hear him talk. And I'm not going to go into it because I've already talked too long, but he gives this whole story about a lesson that he learned on set. Yeah. And he told us the mistake that he had made. And he shared the story with us. It was about Marlon Brando. And he shared the whole thing and was vulnerable and explained how he fucked up. And he literally says, like, fucked up. I mean, Frank Oz is like, I fucked up bad. Where else but a festival like this, where it's such a multi-directional, multimedia experience, where these are just enriching experiences. So Gavin, thank you once again for allowing me to be your partner
I've
I'm
enjoyed
obviously
it.
what?
I have greatly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like I said, you and I have never actually got to sit down and talk about the films because I'm always doing interviews, and that's really what our focus has been in the past is interviews. But I think the experiences is what we're going to focus on in the future. I hope that they do a hybrid from now on with in person and this online stuff because it just opens a whole world. But shame on you for all that VR, XR nonsense. That's what I'm going to say right now. Not everyone has the ability to do that. And I understand virtual cinema needs to say virtual cinema, but to put art and music behind a video chat, I mean, a VR chat app that the only people know that use that are like 10 years old, like for real? That's
Yeah.
just, I understand you wanted to showcase you built a virtual downtown, but if you're going to work on a virtual experience that say you can access everything, you should be able to access everything. So I love the idea of the virtual. I love the idea of it premiered that you can watch later online because there's some things that are always double booked that we don't get to. There are experiences that first weekend that you got to wait in line to get to. That means you can't go see these films. You know, I think if there was less line writing and more watching films and experiences, then you get more of the stuff like seeing these sessions and having these experiences and taking these things away from it. I hope to God that's how they go in the future, but we'll see what happens next year because I am looking forward to doing this again next year. It was a lot of fun. But now, before we go, what was your favorite feature film? What was your favorite animated short? And what was your favorite live action short?
I did really like. Well, I've only seen a couple of features. I love the witch one, but I have not seen a lot of features. I've only watched the one documentary, which was Selma Blair, which probably will be my favorite. But you know, I got some more to watch. I loved the animation. God, oh man, the ones we saw yesterday. The one that was in Persia.
Yes.
The paper, I forgot what it's
The
called.
Musician.
The music, musicien, yeah, the musician, and then the final one with the the Buttslandia, the asses, the yellow black, the two color, brilliant. Today, or narrative wise, for shorts. I honestly, I can't choose. I mean, I freaking loved safe
Stuffed.
What?
You want to say stuffed.
Oh, fuck, stuffed. Yes, but the one it has safe in the title. The one that we watched today about racism.
Play it safe.
Play it safe. Stuffed was incredible. In fact, what's actually standing out to me more is things I didn't like because I liked everything. Like the only thing I haven't liked so far was that freaking animated short called Opera. It made me want to punch myself in the face with knives. But
how did you not like that one? We had so much to say about that.
No,
one.
Sorry, not Opera. No.
I was about to say.
No, I loved Opera. Sorry. No, the one about the dinner with the couple.
Yeah, the French one. Praise Jesus. No.
Like everything else I've loved. What about you?
My three favorites feature film would have to be the Luchadors one because as much as I love the Oxy Kingpins, I wasn't real big on the narratives this year. It was the documentary. So the Luchadors one was just had a lot to say, and it was just wow. My favorite animated short, hands down, is Opera.
Yeah.
Just balls out, hands down. And my favorite live action short is going to be Femme. I still think about the colors and the danger that one presented and the outfits. Like that one is just amazing to me. So those are my three tops this year.
Yeah.
Love them all. So that's it. I'm kind of sad. We've had a week of fun together.
I know, always. Well, I'm going to keep watching shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch some stuff later, but I still have to watch the Snyder cut of Justice League, and
But that's
I
gonna
gotta
be
get.
around for a while.
Yeah, I gotta get all this done before Brad's show on Tuesday, so I can talk to them about it. Yeah, so I'm gonna try to watch it. We're just gonna see what's online afterwards, but that's it for our coverage this year. We hope you guys have enjoyed it. We've had a very personal talks, very funny talks, very all over general fun talks. Um, yeah, I look forward to seeing what's gonna happen next year with us running around because I do miss the art exhibits. Some of those were so amazing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, can't say anything about music because we couldn't watch it. And I will say this last bit: their comedy section sucked. I tried to watch some of those comedians; they're just not funny. And I
Really?
realized it's because I really like certain comedians that I find humorous, and most of them are female, like Eliza Schlesinger, I guess her name is, and Fortune, whatever her last name is. Like I can't tell you their whole names. I can tell you like their first name and how much I love them. And there's a whole documentary coming to FX in like 2 weeks about these women and how they have to fight just to be represented in the industry. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, no comedy acts. I was just like, really, this is what's funny. Whatever. So that's it. We hope you guys have had fun. If you have any questions, just comment away. Let us know. We'll be back with more South by hopefully next year. We'll see what happens.